the next one I want to say to tell a story with your art is to use small details to hint at more depth to the situation. And that kind of goes right along with what you're saying about the footprints. But what I like to do is, if I have a character in there, I will give the character some sort of quirky addition to their outfit, or maybe they're riding something interesting, or maybe if they're on like a horse, the horse has, it's carrying all sorts of equipment behind them. Because these details, let me ask you this, why do you think little details like that help to tell a story? Will Terry?
I was waiting for Lee. He looked like he was ready to answer this.
Okay, Lee.
I can answer. Well, I think the details that go along with the scene start to become character building. And the example I use in class is like if you go to a brand new neighborhood that just got put up, it sort of looks like a Monopoly kind of neighborhood, no matter what the style is. All the houses just seem so generic. You fast forward 50 years and somebody's lived in a house for 50 years, all of a sudden the little details around the location start to point to who the person is who lives there. And it becomes very specific. It's not just a generic box with a roof on it. It's now an extension of that character. And so I think all details are extensions of the character.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Yeah.
Let me add to that, in that the natural thing that I've noticed that students do is they will, there's a reticence to use reference early on. It's an acquired skill to spend more time preparing for an illustration than it is to just dive right in and start drawing and just boom, 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 boom. Now I'm done. And I had that disease when I was in school, where I'd get an assignment and 2 hours later I'd be done and I'd be going, okay, what's next? And my teacher's like, well, hold on now. Like, let's take a look at this thing. And a lot of my other classmates had that. Now I see that a lot in students where they'll draw, let's say for example, and this is an illustration I'm thinking of right now that one of our students did, where it was on a street corner, and the car that they put in this illustration definitely looked contemporary. And then but it was at a bus stop on the street. So there's a bus stop there and there's a bench there. And the bench that the student drew was completely made up out of his head. And it looked really boxy. It didn't look like a bench that I had ever seen before. It didn't remind me of any bus stop bench that I'd ever seen before. Now it could have existed. Someone could have potentially made a bench like this, but in my 50 years of living on this earth,
demented soul could have
never saw one look like this. And when you're talking about details, you could draw a bench in a park, and you could probably, if you did your research based on different periods of time in history and different places in the world, you could probably draw 20 benches that looked better than the one that he drew that actually brought you to a specific time period or place, so so anyway, I guess the point that I'm saying is that bench that he drew took me right out of the story that he was trying to tell, because it was distracting.
So pay attention to the details as well. Like even something as simple as a bench, if done wrong, could draw too much attention to it in a way that doesn't help your overall picture.
Which brings up a good question: is if you're trying to develop your own style, does that mean you have to draw a bench that some other architect or designer came up with always?
Well, I think it's if the bench is consistent with your style, then it won't stand out. But if everything else looks how it's supposed to look, and then you have this wonky looking bench.
Yeah, you can't make up an entire universe that has no reference point for the viewer.
Right.
I can't say this, that in one of my books, I sort of messed up on a detail, and it was a book I did about 2 or 3 years ago called Arctic White, and it was this Eskimo girl, and she's with her father, and they're going to view these northern lights, but it takes place in very kind of rural conditions, you know, with the animal pelts and the dogs and stuff, the sleds. And she's really sick of seeing all the gray, you know, like sky's gray, the snow has no color. And so midway through the book, she discovers color. She wants to start seeing color and stuff. And so she starts painting, and the palette that I gave her looks like she went to Walmart and bought it. And I should have, like, everything else was so like, I don't want to say indigenous, but if that's the right word, leaning that way, you know, where it's
so
it all
natural.
So yeah, part of the natural world, that I don't think she would have had this, like, just plastic palette that she got.
These colors that were made in a factory.
Yeah, right. I think it would have been a better storytelling opportunity if they kind of ground up the pigments or something like that, put it on a wood bowls or something. Would have probably been a better call. It didn't ruin the book. It's just a small little detail. But now when I go back and see the book, it is a detail that I wish I would have changed, because it could have had more. Like Will said, if it's the wrong palette, I don't want anybody to be pulled out of it and be like, wait, is there a 7-Eleven around the corner from this igloo?
That's a good point.